What is up, everybody, and welcome back to another exclusive interview with PW Mania. My name is Scott Mitchell, and I am your host, and joining me today is the perfect knockout herself, Samantha Starr. How are you doing today?
I am doing fantastic. So happy to be here with you, Scott.
Thank you for coming on the show. It's a pleasure to work with you, and it's a pleasure to speak with you tonight.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Thank you. So I did want to start, I want to focus this into a lot on your time in NWA. But before we get to that, I do want to talk a little bit about your background because I know you come from a wrestling family, but for people watching and for people reading, can you tell us a little bit about that and that how that influenced you?
All right, so I'm gonna have to take a deep breath, and y'all are gonna have a seat because it's a long background. So I am a third generation professional wrestler on both sides of my family. My mom is the perfect 10 baby doll. My dad is Sam Houston. My uncle is WWE Hall of Famer Jake the Snake Roberts. My aunt is WWF Women's World Champion Rockin' Robin. And three out of four of my grandparents also wrestled. I have Grizzly Smith, one of the Wild Kentuckians. I've got Nick Wildman Roberts, who not only was a wrestler, but was also a promoter in Texas. And then one of the first female wrestlers, Lorraine Johnson, half of the women's tag team with Penny Banner, is my grandmother. So quite extensive out there. And then if that's not enough, my mom also got married again to my stepdad, who is a wrestler, and then my husband as well is a wrestler. So we are just a family full.
Definitely. And you definitely come from quite the historic background, quite the legendary background. And you're obviously your own person. You don't go by Smith or Roberts. You're Samantha Starr. How have they influenced your career in any way, though? Although, like, despite trying to be yourself.
So whenever I started wrestling, I was very, very young. I took my first like in-ring bumps whenever I was only 14 years old. And at that point, I decided I wanted to do this on my own. At 14, which was 16 years ago, there weren't a lot of generational wrestlers, and the ones that were out there had a bad name because they were like, "Oh, you only got there because of who your dad is or who your mom is, or oh, you got your way to the top without earning it." So at a very young age, I set it up for myself to say, I'm going to do this on my own. I'm going to go out there, I'm going to hit the road, I'm going to make the drives, I'm going to do everything it takes to be a respected professional wrestler. So even at 14 years old, I had that mentality of I didn't, just because I was born into it, I didn't deserve to have a better spot than somebody else. But throughout the years, I've been able to take the personality of my mom, who was known for being ringside and putting her foot on the rope and the facials and the expressions and making you feel what was happening in the matches. With the I Quit match, there's a picture of her grabbing the cage, just pure terror on her face. But you were able to resonate as a fan that that's what she was feeling, that's what I need to feel as well. So I learned the expressions and the facials from my mom. And Jake, in my opinion, has the greatest promo skills out of anybody. You have people like Bray Wyatt and CM Punk that can go out there and be a little on edge, but Jake, whenever he spoke, just sucked you into it. And he wasn't one that had to yell and scream and have veins popping out on his forehead. He could whisper, and everyone went silent because they wanted to hear what he had to say. So he was a lot of the psychology and the mentality and the believability. My dad, he's 6'4". He's 60 years old and can still do a backflip. So he's got the athleticism. He and my aunt both have the athleticism that uh, just they blow me away. So I take some of their move set. I've used the bulldog in my matches for quite some time, and of course, my finish is the DDT that I picked up because Jake actually invented the DDT. So why would I not carry on that infamous move? So a little bit of different aspects throughout my entire like wrestling career.
Definitely. And that's actually something that really drew me to Jake Roberts. It was definitely before my time. I only got into it in 2005 as a fan. I was born in 96, so I guess I missed the best stuff. But with that said, I remember just going back and watching old promos, and I think that's why I was a big Bray Wyatt fan as well. Because the soft spokenness, there's something more intimidating about that, I would say, than somebody who has their veins popping out, like ready to kill you. Like, I mean, that's just like there's something to be said about like the calmness that could be a little bit, a lot, not a little bit, a lot more intimidating.
Hmm. It's to me, it's almost unhinged to the point where this man is going to do anything in his power to win. It doesn't matter what lines he has to cross. It doesn't matter what laws he has to break. If this man wants to do something, he's going to do it, and he doesn't care the wreckage he leaves in his path. And it's that just true, almost like psychotic, where I'm going to hurt you. It's
Yeah,
just inevitable. This is what's going to happen. And there was just no apologies for it. It's insane. I love it.
definitely. And you see that a lot in like, I don't know if you're a movie person either outside of wrestling, but you see that a lot in like, a lot of those horror films, a lot of the thriller films. Like it's not always like the demon jump scare or like whatever the cliche thing is. Sometimes you see the calm, like manipulative person who's like the villain. So it
Yeah,
really
those are
is.
my go-to. I don't like jump scares. I don't like gore. I don't like the whole like, oh, 63 people died in this movie. I like the methodical, the almost like cat and mouse game where you get to play with your prey before you destroy it. I love that. I love it.
Exactly. Exactly. And sometimes I think it makes for a much more terrifying film in the sense
Mhm.
of, and the same thing with wrestling. Sometimes it makes like the calmness makes for a scarier uh promo, like a more believable, like you're gonna
Mhm.
die promo.
One of
You know?
my favorite scary movies of all time is It by Stephen King, the original with Tim Curry, not the remakes.
Oh
But
yeah.
the stalking and the slow
Yes.
and like the it oh, I love that movie. I know the book is like horrible, horrible, but just that movie and the acting and the speed of it is just it gets me every time. I love that movie.
I think that's what drew me. I love that. I like that movie. I'm also a big fan of Halloween with Michael Myers. I just there's something about like the realism and the creepy stalkerism stuff. Like, so I really do like, I find that to be intimidating, which obviously drew me to people like Jake Roberts and like Bray Wyatt and like The Undertaker, like the creepiness behind it, because
Yeah,
there's something to be said about that. Undertaker obviously is a legend in his own right as well. But yeah, it's just very special for sure.
awesome. Yeah.
So fast forward a little bit to your NWA debut. What was it like when you finally first made your debut there?
Oh gosh, it was terrifying. It was amazing. It was so many different like emotions that I was like nauseous and happy and excited and jittery. Uh, I made my debut at NWA 74, so almost a year ago today. And I made my debut in the Burke Invitational gauntlet match. And I remember being told, hey, we want you for this. And just on the independent circuit, I got to a point where I was a top dog. Like nobody could tell me nothing. I was a veteran on the independent circuit. I knew everything, knew everybody. There weren't many challenges out there for me, and I hadn't really convinced myself to push to the next level yet. And I was just like, maybe my time's running up. Maybe, I had a good indie run and that was it. But then NWA knocked on our door and gave me this just amazing opportunity to go out there on a grander stage with more fans, more production, more invested in it. And I was a nervous wreck. I had those feelings of, is this me? Do I deserve this? Am I worth it? Can I do this? Can I hang with these top women? Because if you look at the NWA women's division, they have some of the top women's wrestlers in the entire world, not just in the United States, but in the world. And I was coming in as almost like the newbie, which I hadn't been in years and years and years. And to enter a match with these just phenomenal, outstanding athletes was intimidating, but you've seen me progress through the time with NWA. You've seen that I've leveled up and I've stepped up, and I found this passion that I haven't had in such a long time, where I have challenges. I have a mountain to climb. If I don't have something that I'm working towards, I get really bored. So with NWA, it's this giant mountain. It's like I'm on Everest, and I'm just climbing and climbing and climbing, and these little wins, like challenging for the U.S. Women's World Television title against Kenzie Page, was something that I was so proud of and I looked forward to. And even though I didn't come away with the title that time, it just, that taste gave me that like just ferocity to keep pushing. It's been fantastic.
Definitely. And you got to square off with Kylan King, who's arguably one of my favorite wrestlers, women's wrestlers around today. And that match, you were obviously managed by your mom, Baby Doll. But how important was that match to you and working with Kylan King, who you guys got to team up and you guys got to be opponents? So looking back on it, like what was that match like for you and how special was it to be managed by your mom too?
I think Kylan is probably one of the most underrated females in the US, if not the world right now. Kylan has the stature, the physique, the work ethic. I admire her so much. And for her to be so young in the business, it's just amazing the feats that she's accomplished so far. Heck, she was just recently Impact Women's Tag Team Champions. So to get into the ring with Kylan King, someone that I didn't know too much about, but had already blazed her way through women's wrestling, it was one of those like surreal moments where is this young gun like better than me? Is she more polished than me? Is she gonna go in there and kick my ass, you know? And I had the honor of being one on one with her in St. Louis. I'm sorry, not St. Louis, it was New Orleans for the pay-per-view, and my mom got to be in my corner, and my mom and I are best friends. We've been around each other my whole life. Like we've always been very pivotal in each other's lives. But she hasn't gotten to work with me that much because I went off and I did my own thing. I wanted to do it on my own. I wanted to make my own name. So to have her in my corner in those moments is so special to me because not only do I get that big opportunity in front of so many thousands of fans, but I have my mom like in my corner cheering me on and getting to share that moment with me. It's heartwarming.
Definitely. And it was special to see from a fan standpoint too, because, you know, just a special moment for sure.
Yeah.
No problem. And more recently you got to be on Team Tyrus in the championship series. What was that match like for you? And just what was being a part of that series like for you?
So I originally started off on Team Brick House. So I was on Team Brick House representing the women's world title with Camille. And due to some losses with the team, we got dispersed, and I ended up on Team Tyrus. So to go from NWA's top woman in the entire company to being moved to Team Tyrus for the Challenge Series, it was almost insane to say I'm Team Tyrus, like I'm on his team and be ringside with him because he's this mountain of a man. Like this man is a giant. And I don't think television gives him enough credit for his size, but I feel like I'm 4 years old looking up at this man. And for NWA to put me on a team that gets so much exposure showed just how much they believe in me. And the team award, like the challenge series, was so insane. Like you never knew what to expect. You didn't know if you were going to have a one-on-one match, a tag team match, if you were going to win via pinfall submission, if it was a no disqualification, if you were losing or gaining points. It had our heads spinning, and we had to think on our feet so much more than just a regular match between two people. So it was fun. It brought that excitement back into the wrestling world instead of, okay, get them on the mat for 3 seconds or make them tap out. It was okay, I can win points this way, this way, this way, this way. Make sure not to do this. Don't get eliminated. Like it was a lot of fun.
Definitely. And that's I remember when I first watched that series, it was very I liked it a lot. It was very unique and it definitely was something fresh, which I found very interesting because there was a lot of versatility there.
Mhm. And you don't
And
see that a
yeah.
lot with pro wrestling. Like you've got to think that we have WWE, Impact, AEW, New Japan, you've got NWA, you've got all the independent promotions where there's wrestling everywhere you turn, no matter where you want to see it. So for NWA to be such innovators to say, hey, we're going to bring a product to the table. Yes, it's professional wrestling, but it's going to be something that you haven't seen before. It's going to be something where you're invested, where there's brackets, where there's total scores, and then at the end, everyone on the winning team gets a title shot. Who's not going to watch every episode to see who gets the title shots? That's what I really admire is the ability to think outside the box and not just think, oh, we got to have a television title here. We've got to have this title here. We've got to have this match. It was a new fresh take, and I love that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It was very, from a fan standpoint, it was very fun to see. It was very interesting, and that made for good television for sure. So more recently, 3 weeks ago, maybe July 18th, it was right around July 18th, where you got to challenge Kenzie Page for the World Women's Television title. What was your match with her like, and getting to work with her, who's another incredible up and comer, I would say, in NWA Women's Division?
So I've actually watched Kenzie Page over the years. I've seen her go through the different stages of maturing through pro wrestling. So to see her go from 17, 18 years old and really just scratching her and clawing her way to the top on the independent circuit, to see her hold the first ever women's television title has been so incredible from a peer or a colleague standpoint, someone that shares in those struggles and works that same mentality. But whenever I got to challenge her for the women's television title, I was so proud of both of us for getting there because NWA gave us this platform and for us to just bring it to the table the way we did in that match. Yeah, I didn't come out with the title that time and I'm still bitter about it and Kenzie Page better watch her back for it. But that was my first shot at a title. So, what are the chances that I'm going to win it on the first shot? You know what I mean? I'm humble. I understand there's processes, there's things that I need to learn. And to be able to challenge Kenzie Page and get more exposure to her in ring so that way I can learn her ways and come back and beat her next time. Just saying. Just saying. Um, it was fantastic. It pushed me. It gave me something to work for.
Definitely. And it's funny that you actually mentioned getting back at her and hopefully getting a shot soon again. Because upcoming next month, wow, later this month, I can't believe it's already August. That's crazy. But upcoming later this month is NWA 75. Do you have any hopes for that show and any thing that you'd really like to do?
So the typical NWA 75, we have a gauntlet match. We have the Mildred Burke Invitational match where they bring in women from all over the country to enter into this gauntlet match, and the winner of that match gets a title shot with the champion on night two. So if I'm lucky enough to get into that gauntlet match, 100%, 100%. I don't know if I would go after Camille and just shoot my shot with the women's world title, or if I would want to cash it in against Kenzie Page because I've worked with her. I know her ways, like I know her move set. So which one's gonna put gold around my waist faster? You know what I mean? Either one would be a hell of a time.
Oh yeah. And we spoke about Camille very briefly, but I do want to talk about Camille and just the whole women's division at NWA. How special is it for you to be a part of, arguably, I would say, one of wrestling's top women's division? Because from top to bottom, you have Camille, who's an absolute powerhouse, and you have just so many talented wrestlers there, yourself included. But how special is that?
NWA has one of the, if not the best women's division in the entire world. Just hands down. From Camille, from Missa Kate and Maddie Rankowski, Kenzie Page, Ella Envy, myself, Ruthie J, Markova, Natalia Markova, just the diversity that we all bring to the table is what really drew me into the women's division because you can look on TV and you can see that okay, well they have cookie cutter women's divisions. Everybody looks the same. You don't know who's who. Same thing with independent circuit. Like, okay, everyone kind of looks the same, everybody kind of fits in. But I came into the NWA women's division when you had Taya Valkyrie, and just that level of athlete, Angelina Love, someone that's been around and done everything that's fantastic that we can sit underneath and learn from. So to be included and to be considered part of the roster for a women's division like that, it it almost elevates my own self-esteem to say this incredible women's division and I'm a part of it. I'm a piece to that puzzle that makes it what it is. So you have your locker room leaders, you have your vets, you have your people from all over the country that you can learn from and pick up stuff from. It's not only is it very admirable to say, hey, listen, I'm a part of this, but there's always an opportunity to learn. Even the agents that we have, Medusa and Jazz, who doesn't want to just hang out with Medusa and Jazz and learn from them every single opportunity you get? So for them to give that time to us to say, "Hey, I see this in you. Let's work on this. Let's push this. Let's tweak this." The feedback and the knowledge they share with us is just outstanding.
Definitely. And, something I find really interesting about the NWA women's division as a whole is, they lost, or not really, I don't want to say they lost, but, Taya Valkyrie, Kylan King, Angelina Love, they don't really show up any like that much anymore. Like they kind of moved and they're doing different things now, which, lots of respect for them and everything they've accomplished. And NWA had an amazing women's division with them. And the interesting part about it is they they don't have them anymore, and the women's division is still as good, if not better, because I guess of all the work that they put in to elevate all of you guys as well. So it's just like it's very special to see because a lot of people like would be like, oh, they lost a lot of heavy hitters, but the thing is, it's still killing it.
Yeah. So whenever I came in, like you said, Taya Valkyrie, Angelina Love, Kylan King, you had all these just standout stars. You had the people that were like, oh, that's their main group on the women's division. But due to better opportunities for Kylan and Taya, they moved on to better things. And I understand that. And I miss them because I love all of them so much. Like they are such amazing people inside and outside of the ring. But even with their absence, the women in the NWA, we don't challenge each other. I know that sounds crazy. We don't challenge each other. We challenge the men. We want to be better than the men. We want to go out there and every single match that we have, we want to blow the entire men's roster out of the water. And I think that that camaraderie within the women's division, we know that we're not trying to step on each other to get the top spot, but we're trying to put the women out there and say, did you watch NWA? Oh my gosh, that women's match was amazing. We want to be the topic of this discussion. We want to be the ones carrying that company because we have the talent to do it. We have the drive to do it.
Absolutely, and it's a sight to see, and there's a lot to be excited about for sure. So, looking ahead for you, what's next for you? Like, do you have any future goals or future opponents that you'd like to square off with?
My future goal is to have NWA gold around my waist or, the white belt with the silver. I've never held a title that was so prestigious as the NWA Women's World title or the NWA Women's Television title. So to be able to put my name down in the history books in a company that not only I've worked at, but so many of my family members have worked at would mean so, so much to me. And I feel like I can carry a title like that and do the company proud. Like Camille is one of the ones that she's a fighting champion. She has that title on the line every single weekend all over the world, not just in the US, not just in her home state, but she's down in Mexico. She's all over. She was in the UK. So to be able to put myself in that conversation is my immediate next step. That's what I'm working towards. That's what I'm driving towards. I'm so proud to be a part of the NWA, and that would just elevate it. That would just be like the cherry on top to say I am an NWA champion.
Definitely. And lots of luck, and I hope that happens for you very soon. And so, leaving off the interview, do you have any message for the fans who might be watching or reading this at home?
If you haven't gotten a chance to check out NWA, start on YouTube. Look at the matches, look at NWA Power, look at the content that we're putting out. There is something for everyone there. Whether you're into the old school 80s style, big, huge, burly men that just want to go in there and brawl, we have those. We have the 6'4" sculpted gentlemen that are look like Ken dolls. We have women that can just knock it out of the park every single match. Between the characters and the action, NWA just has a solid product that if you give it a chance, if you go out there and you say, you know what, I haven't gotten a chance, but I'm going to go back and I'm going to see what they're doing now. Please, that's all we're asking for because you're missing out. If you're not tuning in, you are missing out week over week of just hard hitting, insane wrestling the way it should be. And of course, if I'm on there, I'm always doing business the right way.
Definitely. And thank you so much for your time tonight. And it's been a pleasure to be able to speak with you.
Thank you for having me. I look forward to it.